Well, the clock is ticking for U.S. President Joe Biden. The Democratic National Convention is drawing closer. Murmurs within the blue camp are growing against the incumbent leader. Biden now faces a very critical week ahead. The leader has sent a letter to his party's lawmakers insisting that he will continue the presidential race. But much needs to be done to convince his party representatives and voters alike that he can serve another term in the White House. Here's a report.
On campaign stops in the battleground state of Pennsylvania on Sunday, embattled U.S. President Joe Biden worked to ease mounting concerns from fellow Democrats about his candidacy. The 81-year-old has faced growing calls to end his re-election bid after a shaky debate performance against Republican Donald Trump in late June, which raised questions about his ability to do the job for another 4 years. Biden has vowed to stay in the race, and in a fundraising email on Saturday, he dismissed calls for him to drop out as nonsense. The Democratic president received a warm welcome at a black church in Philadelphia, and during a 6-minute speech joked about his age.
Folks, I know with every fiber of my being, I know I'm going to look like I'm 40 years old, but I've been around a little bit.
Black voters are a critical part of Biden's base, but recent public opinion polling has shown their support for him waning.
While there are those who want to erase history, Kamala and I want to make it, because black history is American history.
Biden later traveled to the state capital Harrisburg for an event with union members. Asked there if the Democratic Party was behind him, Biden told reporters yes. However, on a leadership call the same day by House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, a source familiar with the discussions told Reuters that some House Democrats said that Biden should step aside as presidential candidate. House Democratic sources have said 2 letters are circulating among House Democrats calling for Biden to withdraw. And on Sunday, Democratic National Committee member Alan Clendenin joined calls for Biden to leave, saying, quote, "This election is about the next 4 years, not the last 3.5. The DNC has steadfastly supported Biden since his debate stumbles, so any defections could suggest a deepening of the crisis. DNC Chair Jamie Harrison, meanwhile, said that Biden remains the party's nominee. Democrats have suggested that Vice President Kamala Harris, seen as the likeliest candidate to replace Biden in the November election were he to bow out, could perform well.
And then if it's President Biden, if it's someone else he chooses, which I'm certain, personally, if the president didn't run, he would humbly ask the vice president to step in, who has been extraordinary. If people made that choice in his circle, that's up to them. But he earned our nomination, and certainly he's earned our respect also. From my perspective as a young governor, new to the job, I'm 19 months in, I kind of think if a person has spent their whole life serving, they ought to be able to make up their own mind. And I respect that. We'll probably know in the next couple of days how the president feels about all this.
And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
In a letter to fellow Democrats, U.S. President Joe Biden reaffirmed his commitment for staying in the presidential race and beating former President Donald Trump. The letter comes after a week of speculations about President Biden's candidacy and calls for him to drop out. Now, the president emphasized the importance of, quote, Democratic unity, noting that the party's voters have chosen him as the nominee and no one else. Quote unquote, we have one job, and that is to beat Donald Trump, he wrote in that letter. Any weakening of resolve or lack of clarity about the task ahead only helps Donald Trump and hurts us. That was another quote from the letter. The letter concludes by urging Democrats to come together, unite, and move forward once again to defeat Donald Trump. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.